Then we'll begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, a nation under God, divisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thanks everybody for, I won't say coming out tonight because unfortunately, I think the chief is the only one that had to come out tonight. But other than that, we are going through the police department budget tonight. This is the only budget we have to deal with tonight. This coming Wednesday, we have Public Works, Parks and Town Building. What I will say is please direct your questions through the chair, and other than that, this is not, so to speak, a meeting of the Board of Finance. There are no seating of alternates. Any alternates that attend these can ask questions if they'd like. This is merely a budget workshop. So in that regard, hey Doug, while I notice this.
Yeah.
Doug?
Yes.
The number in the printout, the department detail by line items under the proposed budget column for the police department differs from what the chief is going to go over, I believe, tonight. His machinery and equipment line item is 30,000. We have 128,000. There's also a small difference in the line item for secretary clerk. So I would ask that after this session, if you can please go through and adjust the chief's proposed budget to what he is going to present tonight, as opposed to the numbers we have on this printout. And please double check any of the other proposed budgets to the printout that you had given us last week, just so we're all on the same page, please.
Okay.
So with all that, I'll turn it over to Chief Sadkowski. Chief, all yours.
Okay, good evening, everyone, Board of Finance members, and anyone that may be watching virtually, any resident, or anybody that's joining us. Hopefully all you are at home, warm, safe, and healthy, dealing with this weather like everybody else. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Paul Sadkowski. I currently serve as the Chief of Police of the Seymour Police Department. Tonight, I will be presenting the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget for the police department. And everything that has been happened this past year is extremely important and more crucial than ever before, that the men and women of the department have the necessary tools, equipment, resources, and training to do their jobs in an effective, efficient, and safe manner. We obviously cannot do that without the proper funding in our budget. I would like to thank all of you on this board, past and present, for the support throughout the previous years to ensure that the public safety is not compromised by funding our budget properly. I also would like to thank the First Select Woman, police commissioners, for their support, standing, and obviously for this budget as well. These are unprecedented times like we have never seen before, but I believe working together as a team has made this easier for everyone here. And I'm looking forward to continue that relationship, obviously with this board and the First Select Woman's office and all the other departments throughout the town. Without further ado, there were delay. I will get to the police department budget. Budget is pretty straightforward. It covers 41 officers. That's from my office all the way down to the newest entry-level patrol officer. It also encompasses 2 part-time patrol officers that we still have, 2 crossing guards, 1 parking attendant, 1 administrative assistant, and 1 records clerk. Most of the line items we have tried to remain and keep them the same with no increases. However, you will see increases in most of the salary accounts, and those are due to obviously contractual obligations. There are some slight increases in some of the vendor accounts, which I will point out through this process. Now, obviously, the big one is this past year, a legislative bill was passed. It's called Police accountability and transparency. House Bill 6004. In there are mandates for all police departments throughout Connecticut. And obviously, we are not exempt from that. And obviously, due to those, mandates, we will have increases, mainly in the 340 account, 350 account. And obviously, the biggest one is in the capital improvement, where we have to fund body cameras and dash cameras by 2022, July 1st of 2022. So you'll see substantial increases there because we currently do not have that equipment. Now we are being mandated to purchase that. This budget, obviously.
Chief, if I can ask you a question, what's the impact? I know the cameras and such are part of capital improvement, and I'm assuming the cameras and such are not in the line item budget we're looking at now. So for the line items we're looking at from 101 down to 745, do you have a total dollar impact from the state law that just passed for the accountability? Not counting anything in our capital improvement?
Yeah, so as I go through this budget, I'll point those out in those accounts. So the biggest one is the dash and body cam.
Okay, that's fine.
As I go through these accounts, I will show you where they're at and where there's going to be impact.
All right, that's fine.
Mainly in the 340 account, the other purchase services. And when I get to that account, I'll explain that a little bit. That's okay.
Okay. Yep.
So this budget that was put together by myself, we had a budget committee for the Board of Police Commissioners. Chairman at the time, Bob Koskalowski, and Vice Chair Dave Bitso. And then we presented this at the Budget Summit back in December. From that Budget Summit, we made some adjustments. And then the full board approved this at their January meeting to move forward with approval, submission. And then last week I met with the first select woman, Anne Marie Dragonis, and we had discussion on the budget that I presented to. And where we make some further adjustments down the road. I'm going to try to share my screen. I put together a PowerPoint. I'm going to try to share that with you now. I believe all of you have received copies of the budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
If for some reason I run into technical difficulties, then I'll just go through that, manually through your sheets. But let me try here.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Are you able to see the PowerPoint?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay. So I'm just everything in those sheets is basically reflected in this PowerPoint. So I'll just take you through it. Again, this is the projected budget for the 2021-2022 budget for the Seymour Police Department. The first sheet here you'll see is kind of a cover sheet. It's a summary of all the accounts, previous histories, what some of those accounts entailed as far as dollar wise. And then obviously all the way to the right is the 21-22 figures in this budget. Most of the salary accounts, the first 9 or 10 line items are going to be salary accounts, and these are accounts that the dollar figures you see are based on 261 working days. That's what the budget requires, as well as contractual obligations. The first one you see here is obviously the chief's salary. The second one you'll see is the deputy chief's salary. Now this one looks like it's a big increase because last year we funded 2 deputy chief positions. We had 1 retirement, but I guess through the budget discussions with your board, the Board of Finance, and the former First Selectman Miller, the budget was technically represented 2 positions, but 1 was put into the contingency fund, and 1 was obviously put our budget with the hope that it's going to be filled by our board. This budget represents both budgets, both positions in our budget. Lieutenant salary, we don't have this position at this time, so that's been zeroed out. Next one is the school resource officers. We have 2 school resource officers in the buildings. One's at the middle school, one's at the high school. And that reflects their salaries for both positions. I would like to see this put into the 110 account. If things were being funded by grant money or other means, I could see the difference of splitting those and having a different line item. I think it may be easier just to include this 104 into the 110 and just have one account to represent all these positions. Just my recommendation, as I always do. Secretary clerk, this represents my administrative assistant, and then obviously the records clerk that we need to have. Both positions are crucial. We cannot function without them. This is the 110 account, the union wages. This is the bulk of where all the officers' salaries come from. Besides first officers and my salary and the 2 deputies. Everybody else comes out of this 110 account. And you'll see the figure that was put together for this year. Next, we breaks it down a little better by positions, how many positions, then what those totals are for those positions. So that's what you're seeing there on the screen now. Coming out to that dollar amount. 112 account is the supernumeraries. We still have supernumeraries or part-time officers. We currently have 2. The department is basically looking to potentially hire additional supernumeraries for manpower reasons. We just went through this COVID where bodies have been
Didn't have any.
supernumeraries backfill when an officer is out or can't work. We're looking to expand on that. We put a slight increase to 23,000 for obviously to maybe hire more personnel. One thing to keep in mind, anytime you have this supernumerary account, the more supers that work, the more money you would save on overtime based on the rates of pay. So that's where that increases to $3,000. 114 account is the school crossing guards and the parking attendant. The parking attendant has been kind of put on hold with all this COVID and limited business downtown. But the crossing guards, again, they've been on hold, but we budget for them. But at the end of the year, just like last year, you'll see a cost savings at the end because of them not working the full year like they have in previous years. But one thing I want to bring to your attention, I brought it the last couple of years. We could probably save close to $10,000 to $11,000 if Chatfield or Presti students are all bused. I brought this to the attention of the Board of Education. I think the last 2 years they were reviewing that to see if that is feasible. I think it is based on a limited number of people that cross that intersection. This would be similar to what happened at the middle school several years ago, where the Board of Ed decided all students in those surrounding neighborhoods. With that, we were able to eliminate 2 crossing guards, which obviously found money. Buses run up and down Skokrat, they run up and down Bunting Road, and the ones that cross, from what I understand, come from the Bunting Road area. I really don't think that would be much of an issue if students were picked up there. Then we would see, or the town would see a cost savings there by making everybody in that district walkers. So that is my recommendation. I hope there's further discussion on that, obviously between all of us.
Has the Board of Ed gotten back to you on that, Paul?
So they were reviewing it. And then when COVID struck, obviously that threw different dynamics into it. So as the school was ready to start up back in August, September timeframe, I had discussion with Mr. Wilson, the superintendent. He felt now would not be the time due to COVID that he felt that more people would be utilizing, maybe walking in that area, obviously the social distance as a safety issue.
Okay.
I think we need to revisit that as a whole and try to realize savings there. I believe the Board of Ed has put in conjunction with the bus company other measures in place to keep people safe. I'd like to see further discussion on that to realize the savings.
Well, our board has no problem with that. I mean, it's whatever you two can work out, but hopefully if there could be a decision, between the two of you is coming to common ground, prior to finalizing this budget. $11,000 is $11,000 if we can save it.
Agreed. So we'll have more discussion on that. I spoke to the first selectman last week. I think that's progress to keep discussing that.
Okay.
Next line item is the overtime account, which is the 130. I increased this to 175 based on contractual obligations and where we have been in prior years. Last year, I think we were around 160. Obviously, increase in raises. Obviously, dealing with COVID and people out, we might see increase in this line item. I will point out that the town has an agreement with the union at this point in time, where we're going to do a trial period on comp time, and that comp time is potentially is going to save us money over time. So that might get scaled back. But again, longevity pay, these are contractual obligations by contract. We put it in our budget, but it's not included in the total. And every year, this kind of number comes down as people retire or move on for other reasons. Eventually, this account will be out because this is a contractual thing. Obviously, new hire at a certain date do not get looking at probably 10, 12 That screen there obviously just lays out the amount of years allotment they get. 95. This is in our budget. I really don't manage this, but I put the dollar amount, and then Doug handles it through his office, Board of Finance. Finance Department handles that amount. My recommendation out of our budget, with all the other fringe benefits, because I'm going to be honest with you, I budget this. Now, not even sure if that's enough money. Doug would have to expound on that at a later time.
Just as a question, the survivors benefits the chief is referencing, is his number budget wise, has it come close to actual, or because you handle it, obviously he doesn't?
Yeah, it's been pretty steady. So yeah, it's been okay.
Is there a reason why it's in his budget as opposed to the benefits line items in the town?
No, we could change it at any time.
Well, I think we don't have in any department's budgets like FICA, Social Security, workers' comp, and things like that. I mean, something like this for the smallness of the amount, but just to get it organized, probably should go under the group benefits in the town line item, because that's what it is. It just happens to pertain to the police department.
Okay.
And that'll give us a better handle on what we're looking at instead of having to delve into the police budget with combining it with the town budget for actual expenses. Just move it over, and we'll have it all in one spot with the rest of the benefits.
Okay.
You all set, Bill?
Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead, Chief. Sorry.
No, not a problem. The next line item is the 340 account. As I described a little earlier, you'll see an increase sought in accordance with the Police Accountability and Transparency Bill. That's House Bill 6004. If you go all the way down to the bottom there, you'll see drug screens and 4,000 behavioral health assessments. This is where the impact is. The passage of this new bill, drug screens have to be done every 3 years. So every employee in the police department, all certified sworn personnel, have to have drug screens. So this is in relation to their certification dates, which is every 3 years. As of right now, we put that dollar figure, because that's what we're being told. A rough idea of what drug screens would cost per officer. However, if those drug screens go up, and like I said, no one really knows exactly based on what they have to test for. A lot of it is for anabolic steroids, according to the bill. That number could increase, but right now they're telling us that it's about $350 to $400 officer to get these drug screens done. So this year we have 10 officers that all have to get it done. So that's where you see that dollar amount. So we have never had that before. And then the behavioral health assessments, $3,000, same thing. According to the bill, 20% of the department has to get done every year. So 20% over the course of 5 years. These will be reoccurring costs. And again, we're being told that health assessments are about $300 a person times 10. And that's and every year thereafter, there's going to be a great fluctuation in cost there. So next year, I think we'll be okay. It goes up 2 or 3 officers. But then the following year, you're going to see a big increase because that's when the bulk of the officers have to get certified. So it's all the certification dates are on a 3-year schedule. So that number in this 340 account is going to fluctuate over every year, basically. And those are never going away according to the bill.
Okay. Chief, South Central Criminal Justice, 13,000.
Yes. Yep. So that's the organization we belong to. And there is about 12,000. And then there's other fees, testing fees and everything that are included with that. So that's where some of that number is pretty accurate.
So it's essential. I mean, all of the surrounding departments are in.
Yep. We pretty much belong to that organization, and not belonging to that would be an injustice because they do a lot for us as far as research. It's just a great resource to have and belong to, and without it, you're discounting our availability to great resources and information. So.
Okay, sounds fair.
Else in there is the EAP program. That's pretty standard. That's our employee assistance program. The physical agility benefit, that's a contractual obligation. And then obviously psychological testing, polygraph testing, those are for new hirees that we have in the budget, or if there's a situation where we have to do it for other reasons. But that's basically that line item. 350 account is the training, schooling, and seminars. This is the bulk of where we get everything, all the officers trained. Again, you see an increase based on new state mandates with police accountability bill. So last year I asked for this amount, the 249,940. It got scaled back to 221,500, but I put it back up to the 249,940. And with this new accountability bill, you're going to start it in the fall, but there's more to come as far as use of force. Different mandates in that bill. We're going to have to there's also mandatory training for crowd control and other training that's going to have to be accomplished through that bill. Then that sheet just breaks other things down. This is where contractual obligations for degrees, and then different trainings that we do throughout the year. We try to put a dollar figure to that, and to get that training accomplished and completed. 430 account, this is our repairs and maintenance. This is mainly for the cars. We used to have it for cars and buildings. Last year, $10,000 was moved over to the town buildings. We did the same thing this year. That's the way it's going to be. So we're looking to keep this status quo with no increase. And this is where it's important that we maintain our fleet of cars. Obviously, the newer the fleet, the less repairs and maintenance. The older the fleet, those repairs and maintenance go up for obvious reasons. So that's basically that line item. The 500 account, there's a slight increase here. This is mainly all the vendors that we use for the police department to get everyday stuff accomplished. And, some things obviously been price, and That's why you see the slight increase from last year. I think it's like $550. And that's only what we know so far. Obviously, a lot of these vendors go up in their price around July, but we're hoping that this amount is going to be sufficient enough. 520, this is just an insurance that the town has always allegedly has. I believe we had discussion on this in previous years, and it was supposed to be researched what this insurance is for. I'm not really sure. We always have a budget 150 for it. I'm not sure if that was ever researched on the town's end, as we discussed from previous budget meetings. But and nonetheless, it's in here. And if we still have that policy, I totally still have it, but I'm not sure. So that's the amount that's always been budgeted, 150, and it's some type of insurance. So, Doug, do you know if again what that may be, or?
No, I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up, Chief.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should, Doug. I mean, it's only $150, but I'm looking at the detailed printout that you had done, and there are no expenses charged to it for the last 4 years. So, you know, $150, it's small, but if it can go away because it's non-existent, why not?
Okay.
Okay, just to move forward, I believe the next one is the 530 account. Again, there's a slight increase due to some vendors going up on prices that we're aware of. And again, these are mostly all our CAD system, our hardware, our software, stuff we pay for town buildings, for the parks, cameras, etc. And this all comes out of this line item, as you can see. This is, you know, obviously we have many moving parts here at the police department, and this has been reviewed obviously by the IT people several times. And so this is what we are requesting and need to operate. Travel vehicle allowance. This is a contractual obligation in the in the budgets. I mean in the contracts that we budget for. We do a pretty good job of keeping that to the bare minimum. And again, we put $500 aside for that. So basically, anytime an officer goes out of town in training or business or, you know, to court or wherever they may have to travel for hearings, if they use their own car, we have to pay them mileage. However, we always try to make available department vehicle to minimize that expense. So I think we do a pretty good job managing it. 610 accounts. This is our general supplies. Last year, higher request, we went, I think, was cut back. As you see, the dollar amount, $31,950, and we're the only police department, but only department that runs 24/7, 365. And a lot of these supplies are needed obviously for us to operate. And especially with COVID and a lot of things that have happened, you know, different supplies had to be purchased and needed, and we can get through that on this account. So again, we make it work. Canine supplies is a 6 account. We have 2 canines, and this is where they purchase anything for their dogs. And you know, obviously, most of it is the dog food and supplies that they need on a daily, weekly basis comes out of it. Clothing allowance. This is contractual obligation by the contracts. There is an increase in this line item. Obviously, we have additional bodies that came on board, and then the rest is by contractual obligations with those contracts that we have to meet. So that's where the increase is from last year. Gas and oil, we left this at the same. Oil prices, gas prices have been down. However, it's unknown right now if this will be enough money. We're hoping it will be. And I think Town Hall has been doing a great job managing, you know, for the town, purchasing this. But obviously, they can only control so much. Some of the things that are occurring with the new president, shutting down some energy pipelines and stuff. You know, we'll see where this increase goes. But right now, this has been meeting our needs. 740 account, this is most of where our equipment comes from that we need to purchase for the department. Again, we're not seeking any increase. We're trying to make everything work to hold the bottom line on our budget.
Chief, has the things such as server, computers, printers, upgrades, has that all been vetted through our IT guy, Rob?
Yes,
Okay.
anything we do, we check with Rob, and that's what we were instructed to do. We have a detective that works very closely with the IT person for the town. So collectively, we see what's needed, we discuss it, and what's the best way we could go about purchasing it at obviously the best price. So
Okay.
we work together as a team to keep those costs down and obviously get what we need to operate.
All right.
745 accounts. This is where other equipment comes from for the cars. And again, we were appropriated 30,000 last year, and we kept that at this year. However, just like previous years, as we discussed in the budget summit, we are requesting 2 new vehicles. However, as usual, at the budget summit that was held, it evolved around the department moving the request from the budget with the understanding the vehicles hopefully could be purchased with this budget cycle ending June 30th. So we'll see what that brings.
Chief, you came in broke up on the last explanation, at least to me for the audio.
Yeah,
Okay. So
That's better.
I'll just we requested 2 vehicles. Obviously, budget discussion, budget summit discussion. We eliminated those 2 vehicles with the understanding that any monies that may be remaining at the end of the budget year, we review that again and hopefully and potentially purchase those vehicles.
Yeah, I mean that it's worked well so far over the last these many years. So keep our fingers crossed that it still holds.
Absolutely. That's mainly the budget itself. If you want any questions now, or if you want me to continue on, the next thing is the income revenue. So, want me to continue on, Bill, or?
Yeah, why don't you go through your whole presentation, Chief, and then this way, anybody can come back and ask a question in whatever area
Okay.
that you might have.
So the next is the income revenue for the 2021-22 budget. We basically left all the fees right now this year, 81,130 to bring in, and we did the same thing next year due to uncertainty of the climate, obviously with COVID. And some of the things that have been affected by that are parking sticker fees are down, administrative fees are down due to lack of private duty jobs. Pistol permits have gone through the roof, but again, you don't know the uncertainty of next year. So we're erring on the side of caution. If we bring more money in certain areas, that might balance some of the areas that we don't bring as much in. So we left that figure the same. And then the capital budget request for 2021-2022 budget. Go through those. The first one you're going to see is obviously the dash and body cameras. That's the biggest expense that we're facing with this House bill. Police accountability bill, HB 6004, mandates police vehicles be equipped with dash cameras and cameras for officers to wear body cameras. We're looking to purchase 14 dash cameras for vehicles and 45 body cameras for all of the officers. We're currently eligible for a 30% reimbursement from the state of Connecticut for the first year of the cost only. Supposedly there is grant money available, or will be, through bonding through the state. From what we're told, Seymour is at 30% reimbursement. Some other cities and towns are 50%, but we do not qualify for that. If you choose to use that grant money, the town must pay for the cost up front for the equipment and then submit all the paperwork and get reimbursed for that at a later date. Similar to what we do with the Bulletproof Vest program, the town pays up front and then they get reimbursed from the federal government. This will
So
be
if we fall into the 30%, if we spend 150,000, then 45,000 potentially comes back to us, but we have to upfront it first.
yes, that's my
Okay.
understanding. The way it's been explained to us. If any other money is used, then that I think null and voids their reimbursement, from the state. There are some
Now,
financing options available with the vendor costs spread out over 5 years. However, that's one of the things that may affect the reimbursement from the state. If you decide to finance, then the state says, no, you can't do that, and they won't reimburse you from what we're being told at this time. If any of that changes, we'll stay on top of that, but that's not our understanding right now.
Doug?
Yeah.
I'd like you to get with the chief and nail down all of these potential reimbursements and any effects of vendor financing versus possible town financing. If we were to, let's say, like we bought the fire truck a couple of years ago, we need to know as a board what would and would not affect getting a reimbursement. Because if we, to the chief's point, if we go with a vendor that sells this stuff and we finance it over 3 to 5 years, whatever, if that cuts us out of the reimbursement, we may not want to do that. Similarly, if we look at the town just going out and paying for this and financing it on a, essentially borrowing a temporary note and paying for it, does the town getting temporary financing on their own, does that disqualify us for the reimbursement? So I would ask that prior to, well, as I said, we have our February meeting coming up. It's not for a little while yet, but I want to know what the impact is on each type of financing and versus paying out in cash, that we don't want to miss an opportunity if it's there and viable to get some sort of reimbursement. I just don't think the town can commit to something and then find out down the road, oops, we picked the wrong way to pay for this. I don't want to have that happen.
Okay.
So Chief, if you and Doug can get together at some point, doesn't have to be tomorrow, but so we can have some information for our February meeting on this.
Yes. So basically, I have some of my personnel that have been, specifically Commander Fabiano, and they have been in touch with some of these vendors. I think we reached out to 5 or 6. They're getting the costs, and we're trying to narrow that down. As it says here, this is a work in progress, and we're still trying to evaluate and assess the equipment, the options.
No, understood. My concern is
I know.
from probably the statute side.
Yep.
Do we not get knocked out if we commit to a vendor who says, oh yeah, I'll finance it for you? Because that may negate any kind of real deal that the vendor would give us. So that's the side of the coin that we really need to be comfortable with from the town perspective.
Yes, I agree. So that's the biggest expense in this new House bill. We're looking at anywhere from 150 to 200,000. Obviously, then yearly after that, we're going to have to see, next year's budget. You're going to see storage fees. And just a quick guesstimate, you're looking at anywhere from 50 to 60,000 on storage fees yearly. And then obviously these lifespan of the equipment, they're saying anywhere from 3 to 5 years. We're hoping to get 5-6 years out of this equipment. And then obviously you're back to square one with purchasing, but obviously through the budget cycles, and you start preparing for that over a period of time. So
I mean, I could envision this because IT and cameras, like any other technology, gets out of date and obsolete. And I can envision this similar to buying bulletproof vests. where, you plan on a replacement of X amount of these things every year rather than do nothing for 4 or 5 years and all of a sudden, gee, we got to spend another 150 grand.
Right. So on to the next one, install and replace fencing around the police department. This is something we've been doing the last couple of years. We haven't done anything with it, but some of the fencing around the building is dilapidated in poor shape. It could present some liability issues as well as security issues, especially with things that have happened this past year. I would like to see maybe some of this fencing sooner than later to enhance the security around the police department. This is has been a work in progress. Number 3, replace worn carpet, repair damaged floor tiles in the building. We've been able to accomplish some of this through regular budgetary process at the end of the year, but the building's almost 20 years old. As you know, we had some obviously water issues throughout the years in the basement, and some of that obviously is just damage from some of that stuff that needs to get replaced, as well as worn out over the course of the past 20 years. Number 4, the legal consultant. This would be a consultant that we would hopefully hire and assist the BOPC and the police administration, policies, procedures, standards, bring us up to date. And this will be a process that we've reached state accreditation, and then obviously will occur over a period of 2 years. Many police departments are doing this. Obviously, I think it's prudent and necessary to do this. I believe in the capital budget, not this year, but next year. The former first selectman, I think, set some of this money aside in conjunction with obviously your board discussing some of that. Hopefully that stays in there and we could move forward on that. Number 5 is the replacement of bulletproof vests for officers. That's a 3 to 4 year rolling process, as you just described. A certain amount of vests get replaced each year, and we just put money aside for that again to keep that going. And then number 6 is something new, signs and markings for roadways and traffic improvements. Throughout the year, several requests are made from the general public as well as the Board of Police Commissioners in relation to traffic concerns throughout the Seymour community. Most of the time, these concerns are addressed with requests from the police department. Install new signage, roadway markings, obviously to increase public safety. Most of the time, there's limited money for this. The Board of Police Commissioners had discussion at their November 20th, 2020 meeting, requested that this be put in the budget for these traffic enhancements and continue thereafter. This year, I put it into the capital improvement plan, but we're looking to have a line item in the yearly budget moving forward, a certain amount of dollars for traffic and safety improvements throughout the community. This figure here, you see, we requested 2 projects be done of the Board of Police Commissioners in conjunction with them. Increase the signage at 3 and 4 way intersections throughout the town and markings, and then obviously a lot of painting in the intersections, like don't block the boxes, etc. So that's where we came up with that figure to try to get the bulk of those 2 projects done. So that's basically where we're at with the capital budget request. Looking at the cost, vendors. Some of the prices are coming in a little better, but obviously we have to make sure that the accomplish. I think that's basically. Anybody has any questions or?
Does anybody, would anybody have anything to ask the chief on about his budget? Just as it state your name so Monica can know who's talking.
Yes, Beverly Kennedy. Okay, on line 350 in the training and schooling, can you tell me why there's a difference between the firearms training between regulars and supernumeraries? The rate, why is one 56 and the other one is 46?
Basically based on their overtime rate.
Oh, it's based on their overtime rate?
Most of the time,
Okay,
we have to, you have to pay overtime to get a lot of that training done. So that's kind of the average that we take in those accounts and break it down. So these are training that's mandatory. So that's that's where it is, Bev, in the overtime.
okay, I was just curious why there was a difference between the two rates. And also on the college, what is it, we offer one course a year to these people for masters, bachelors, and associates? How is that broken down?
No,
Because
so,
you have 4 names and you have $6,000. Are they taking only one course a year?
no. So what happens is this is a contractual benefit. It's in the collective bargaining unit. So they get a certain dollar amount for having a master's degree. And then you get a certain dollar amount for bachelors, you get a certain amount for associates. So
Okay, so this is because what they have, and then we pay them extra for that. Is that correct?
yes, yes. So those 4 people you see there have their master's degree and they're paid a certain dollar amount. Obviously, it comes out to $1,500 for a master's degree.
Okay, but that's not included in their salary? Or
No.
is that,
By contractual, once a year, we pay that out in December to anybody that has college degrees. And this is reoccurring every year, according to the CBA.
okay. Okay, and the other question I had was on the Board of Education, when we had the student resource officers, do they pay us anything back to the police department for those 2 officers, or no? It's all in your budget and not theirs?
Nope, everything comes out of police department budget. We are not compensated at all.
Okay, okay, thanks. And the other thing I just had for Doug, I just was wondering if we could get some numbers that are actual year-to-date numbers as of 2/1, because these last numbers are as of 12/5/2020 on the budgets.
Yeah, I can get them updated.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Bev. Yeah, Doug, if you can update, you've got to, clean up the printout anyway, but we absolutely need numbers that are not 2 months behind, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the chief?
Yeah, I got some.
What? Go ahead, Rich.
So I don't know whether this would be a question for Doug or whether this would be for Chief Satowski. But we did briefly discuss total cost of the new state mandate. Do we know a total cost? If we were to add up every single thing that's in his budget pertaining to the new state mandate, what does that figure come out to with everything? The body cams, the classes, the training, everything.
So, Chief Sadkowski speaking. So, these are the figures that we put together right now. Obviously, every time you review that bill, something else comes out at you. And but these are some of the costs that we know of now. And what I mean by that is, we talked about drug screen tests. We talked about behavioral health assessments. There's a lot of costs we don't even know about. If an officer doesn't pass those tests or assessments, how does that affect us? Do we lose that body? Could that person work, not work? Obviously, there's litigation involved. So there's a lot of unknown costs with that budget. We'll start discussing some of the stuff that could still come out of it. But right now, the biggest expense is the dash and body cams. Obviously, those screenings that have to be done, and the storage yearly after that, and then we could try to go through it some more. But right now, those are what we see where the biggest costs are right now, besides litigation and anything that might come from other issues. Those are the hard numbers right now.
But I'm specifically looking for a total dollar amount.
No, get away from there.
These are all spread throughout the
It
entire.
was sniffing it.
I would like to know if you add every single thing up, what is that number?
Okay. You're going good. You're at.
Well, I think rather than belabor it now, Chief, if you can put a listing together by line item of how much, if anything, is because of the new state bill, and just get it over to Doug, and Doug, if you can send it on to us so we can see it, it's probably a little easier to sit down and go through it by line item. Then we'll have it to be able to digest. And I would also like to add, Chief, if you could, this is the 2020, this is the 21-22 budget, obviously. If you have even if it's a seat of the pants estimate on 22-23, 23-24, for those same line items, if you can put them in a different column, so we could get an idea looking out as best you know now. And I get it that every time you look at the bill, something else jumps out at you because this is new to every municipality. But I think that would be a big help if we could get an understanding of the impact. We know we're looking at 150 to 200 on cameras and IT stuff. You've got some other stuff under the training and whatever, but I think it would be very helpful if we could just get a listing just of those items for this year and maybe a projection for a year or two down the road.
Okay. Yes, we'll try to work on that. Like I said, the biggest thing you're going to see right now is in that 340 account. Because that's got to be done per year the way it gets broken down. We'll go through all that again, try to narrow that down a little better. And but right now, putting this budget together, that's where I see the costs that are going to impact us immediately.
You know, I think it's a good start for now, and at least if we get the specifics and the dollars, that'll give us the board something to just sit and chat about as we go through this, because we know it's an expensive proposition, obviously.
I also think that's important to have an overall in regards to also determining what potential reimbursements might be. So I mean, there's numerous reasons why I'm curious over the total dollar amount.
That's to my point exactly, Rich. I think we're thinking alike, because that's why I mentioned a little bit ago about Doug getting with the chief to find out how paying for this in different mechanisms can and might it affect the reimbursement. If we can't do something, but we could do method 1, but we can't do method 2 or method 3 or whatever it is. This way, if let them put something together, so as a board, we can see what we can't do to pay for this stuff and what we can do to pay for this stuff.
Right.
Without, I think that makes sense. And that'll, I think, clearly drive part of our decision making.
Very good. And one more quick question in regards to the revenues. Chief Satowski, you mentioned that firearm pistol permits are through the roof this year. If you had to put an estimate, are we talking double what we anticipated last year? Because last year, I think we budgeted 5,000. Once again, we budgeted another 5,000 on the revenue side for that. Do you think that our revenue increase is significantly greater along the lines of maybe 10, or would you say that it's a little bit more between 5 and 7?
No, so the monies taken in for the pistol permits currently are probably almost triple of what that 5,000 is. Or we will by the end of the year. However, this anomaly year, a lot of things have happened, and people for different reasons have done that. If you look at the 2 budget years, I never made my total on that, but obviously 2020 was a unique year, and they just went skyrocketed. So
right.
sure.
General,
Yeah.
I'm having, go ahead.
This year will probably almost be triple when but as I said, I'm short in other accounts. So like the parking downtown, all that, obviously you don't have really the enforcement, lack of traffic, lack of a person there. However, you do save on the salary on that account. So that's kind of equal out there. And, but you won't see the money. Parking sticker fines, I mean, for the parking sticker fees, that dollar amount has down substantially compared to other years. Okay, you don't have people traveling, you don't have people taking the train, you don't have people buying those permits because they don't need them, because they're, again, a lot of people are working remotely or unfortunately laid off, lost their jobs, and just aren't traveling to the city or the train where they need to go. So it's kind of a balance. So even though pistol permit fees are up, that's going to offset some of the ones that we're not meeting our goal on. So.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I know that usually the thing with the pistol permits, that's usually news driven. And it's, having somewhat of an inside knowledge on pistol permits being an instructor, I definitely see that 2021, 22 is going to be another strong year based on the calls and interests that I have. I'm just curious though, in regards to that with revenues, because that is something that, we could use to potentially offset a few other things. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rich. And Bev, anybody else have any questions for the chief on his
I got
budget?
some.
Go ahead, Zani.
First, thank you. This is cool PowerPoint for me. Being visual. Nice job putting it together, Chief. It's really cool. But the only question I have is, where are you receiving your guidance on, the compliance? I guess the budgetary stuff. Is it from OPM, or are you guys working through somebody else to get the information on how to get the financing and what body cameras you need and stuff like that?
So if you read the bill lays out that the state will fund or bond $4 million. I don't think that's enough money for the state to do that. They did this a couple of years back, and I think they bonded a lot more money than that, and only a certain handful of departments obviously apply for those grants or were accepted. We never had the dash and body cameras, and obviously a lot of that technology is older now. So it's laid out in the bill that I believe the state will bond $4 million, and then obviously the departments are able to apply for that. And then going off the previous grant monies that were available a couple of years ago. So the person that's working for me on this project, Commander Fabiano, he reached out to some people at the state level with those grants, and he's been getting the information from them, and that's been obviously passed along because we've been working on this, knowing the budget's coming up and trying to prepare for this the best we can. And then, obviously we're working with the vendors, and some of them obviously have been involved with that process, and they're familiar with some of the things dealing with other police departments in the past. So it's kind of a combination of where we're getting our information from, and trying to make all that work in this budget.
No, very good. I just want to make sure, seeing how you got it. No, good job.
Yeah, thanks, Ani. I think that's the key, is we've all kind of agreed on that. Once between Doug and the chief and Commander Fabiano, if he's involved or whatever, we just need to know what we can do and should do to be able to get a reimbursement. And one of the issues that I see, if in the bill it says state's going to bond X dollars, well, that creates a finite number. And does that mean the first ones to the table get the money? That if you don't act, or you come in at the end of it, as far as expenditures go, that there may not be any reimbursement to get because the money was used up by other departments. So I think this is all the mechanics that we need to we need to look at to get an understanding of, so we can take the correct steps to get what we need.
to do it. And looking at it, it does say exactly what you just said. It says there's 4 million and everything, but that was my question. I was curious if he was talking to somebody. There's a guy listed in the OPM office who runs the grant program. I was wondering if he was working, if the chief was working with them to figure out a few of the questions, if him and Doug were working with them to figure out those questions with the grant. That was my question. And
Yeah, no, understood. I think
Which is
we're
good.
all on the same.
I think,
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page.
no, very, it's good so far.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for the chief on his budget proposal?
Nope.
It's all very quiet. Okay, if there are no further questions, then Chief, thank you as always for the presentation and the details. We've got some, yeah, between yourself and Doug and all, you got a little bit of digging to do to round up some information and get some stuff back to us to look at. But if there's no other questions, this is the only department tonight. We will be back to reconvene on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And if no one has anything else, stay safe, stay warm, and it's best I can tell you till Wednesday.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe, warm, and healthy.
Good job, Chief.
Yep.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See everybody Wednesday.
All right,
Deal.
same
See you
Zoom link.
Wednesday.
Rory, same Zoom link.
No, a separate meeting should have been sent out.